And welcome back. I have an opportunity right now to speak with one of the few people that I actually, trust in Washington, D.C. right now, Colonel Michael Waltz, who is the congressman or the representative. I'm going to start calling you guys representatives because that's what you are for the 6th District of Florida. We give you all these fancy titles and we stick a lapel pin on you, and a whole bunch of them up there then think they are super beings and don't have to answer to the people who sent them there anymore. Fortunately, you're not like that.
Nope. You can't ever lose sight of the fact that the people are the boss. I work for them, and it's their money that comes to my paycheck now, whether it's a colonel or a congressman. People are the boss. I take we the people very seriously.
Yeah, and let me tell you something about our money, because I guess I really don't have to tell you this, but you guys are spending like drunken sailors up there. I know it's the leadership that's doing this, but trillions and trillions of dollars and more trillions to come for an infrastructure package. And, where's this money coming from? And you have children, so do I, and grandchildren. What happens to them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even your money anymore, Joyce, or my money. It's their money.
Right.
And it's their kids' money that don't even exist yet. We've spent more now dealing with COVID, or at least I should say with air quotes, under the umbrella of COVID, than we spent as a country in World War II. We've spent more now than the GDP of the rest of the world, except for the United States and China, more than the country's entire GDP. It's completely out of control. None of it adds up. And here's the thing, Joyce, that, from a national security standpoint, Chinese military theory, their theory of victory in replacing the United States, where they're number one and we're number two, isn't a big war. If you understand Chinese thinking, they lay low in the grass and force their enemies to submit. And they want us to just step aside like the Soviet Union did as a bankrupt nation. They actually plan on when we're going to go bankrupt as part of their military planning before they make their big moves. And the most recent estimates have now moved that from around 2030 to 2026 because of this drunken spending that you're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. And the level at which they have penetrated the media in this country is mind-boggling, and athletes and everywhere I turn, I'm getting this
Hollywood,
very positive.
Our politics,
Yep.
Wall Street, they are all literally drunk on Chinese money. I just got off a call with the entity that provides grants, the government entity that provides grants out to our universities and our research institutes, and they have had 1,000% increase in the number of cases in dealing with the Chinese infiltrating our systems, and these professors that are making upwards of $800,000, $900,000, $1 million. They get grants here in the United States on federal dollars, by the way, on sensitive technologies like robotics and artificial intelligence. But then they don't really work on the grants. They then go spend 8-9 months in China. I mean, that's basically a spy in my book, and we're going to crack down on it in a big way.
Well, and I believe that that's your intent, but I have never seen a more united group than the Democrats. They are just hell-bent on accomplishing as much as they can in the first 2 years of this Biden-Harris administration, because we can't even call it the Biden administration, apparently, since it's quite obvious as the days go by that the president is faltering.
He's running the show. Yeah.
And he's faltering. I mean, I almost feel sympathetic watching him. It seems like elder abuse to me to trot this man out, knowing that he's having a tough time constructing a sentence. I have no idea what this press conference is going to sound like in an hour, but I'm not hopeful. He's disintegrating, deteriorating.
Well, I mean, it's sad. It's interesting, but sad that this is, a national news event where the president has a single press conference, right?
Yeah.
The anticipation of this thing where, President Trump was taking it and giving it back from this corrupt media, coming and going every time he walked out of the helicopter or anywhere else. Mm-hmm. He was never afraid to stand up and answer questions, justify his policies, justify his tweets or what have you, and be probably the most transparent president that we've ever had. And the Biden administration is exactly the opposite, the most opaque. You don't really know who's calling the shots. You don't really know what's going on. And the mainstream media is just kind of shrugging their shoulders, right? I mean, they're, no big deal. It's really a sad state of affairs.
It is, and I'll tell you something else that's got to be really killing you, Colonel, and that is Ruben Gallego, who is a member, also has served in the military, calling for the benefits of active duty personnel or retirees who participated on January 6th. And by that, I mean, he means who went to Washington to, question election results, that they be stripped of their benefits. Is that even possible? Is that legal?
Well, yeah. That's the first I've heard of it. I mean, I'll have to look into that one. I have to tell you, if you were there, abusing the Capitol Police, if you were there destroying property, you should be prosecuted, period. But I think what you're getting at is they're drawing a very thin line between those who are breaking the law and people who were there, many of which were my constituents. They came by my office and prayed beforehand, and they were there to peacefully be sure that their voice and concerns were heard. I think the average age was probably 72, and they're drawing a thin line between those who broke the law and should be prosecuted and those by the thousands and thousands who are God-loving, law enforcement-loving conservatives who are there to peacefully make sure their voice heard. And that's the scary part, is they're drawing a very big circle.
Yeah, I mean, the only person that was actually shot and killed was a former member of the military, and when I see this kind of rhetoric coming out of a Democrat in Arizona, a Marine Corps veteran of all people, calling on the VA Secretary, Dennis McDonough, to withdraw benefits from these, military retirees or veterans, because some people who were arrested and still haven't been, found guilty of anything, had military pasts. I mean, I'm indignant. I really am. I don't ask them to get special treatment, like you said. If they did anything wrong, that they fall under the same laws as everyone else. But to single them out and say they should be denied benefits, they've just gone power crazy is what's happened.
Yeah, well, and the vast majority, my understanding, are being, they're arrested for basically being on federal property or being somewhere without the appropriate authorization or permission. Fine, but I don't know how it's to restate it, Joyce. I mean, if you were assaulting a police officer, you need to be arrested, prosecuted. What that does to your benefits, whether that was in the Capitol or Kenosha or anywhere else, I don't know. I'll find out. Right. But what bothers me is they're taking someone who broke the law and making that equal conservative and making that equal Trump supporter. Yeah, we just had a hearing this week on rooting out extremism in the military. Okay, fine. Whether you're a communist, a Nazi, white supremacist, you have no place in our military. The regulations are clear, but they want to focus on just white supremacy. We had the Southern Poverty Law Center, of all entities, that has basically labeled, I think, half the country racist.
Right.
There as a witness, right? There was no data. There was a lot of reporting. There were some surveys. There was a survey that they cited that service members of color, about 50%, have experienced some racism. I'm sure there are. But at the end of the day, when we have the chief of naval operations, the head admiral, is including in his reading list how to be an anti-racist for all sailors to read. This is an entity that is colorblind by nature. It's about merit. It's about mission. It's about getting the job done, and whoever has the skills and the physical and mental ability to win wars, period. The military I came up in, Joyce, your skin color was camouflage.
Right.
But we're now at the highest levels, telling them, and the House Armed Services community telling them that you need to be aware of your white privilege, that you need to be aware of the past wrongs and feel guilty for it. That is so destructive to morale and unit cohesion, and this amazing entity in the United States military that only cares about the enemy's bullets don't care if you're black, white, or brown. They only care about the fact that you're American, period. Right. And that's what we need to be talking about and teaching when it comes to the United States military and our veterans.
Yeah. And look, I look at things like the special forces and I say, I'm a woman. I think women should be granted all kinds of opportunity in this country. But when you start changing the requirements of the physical or the levels at which a person has to operate to be a member of the Green Berets like you were, to be a member of, a team that dismantles IDFs, I'm okay with men being physically stronger than I am. I don't see why we have to put in these, crazy social experiments in the military now. We need military uniforms made for pregnant people. Anybody who's pregnant should go home. I mean, I'm sorry. I just can't even imagine what it must be like for a soldier to be trying to work with a partner who's expecting and not feel somewhat like he has to carry the load. Or even another woman has to carry the load. This is crazy stuff.
Yeah. In my view, Joyce, this is about, as you said, this is about standards,
right? Not
gender. If you can meet the standards to be a pilot, to be a Green Beret, to be a cyber warrior, I don't care if you're black, white, brown. I don't care about your gender, religion, or anything else. Our military's mission is to attract and recruit and retain and train the best to win our wars.
Right.
Period.
But they're changing that.
If there's a woman out there that can meet the standards, but here's where the left talks out of both sides of their mouth, is they'll say you need to open it up to everyone, and I'm fine with that. Whoever meets the standards, great. The more the merrier. But then they'll come back a year or two later and say, well, why are only a certain percentage of women getting through? Right. Why are only a certain percentage of people? And then they begin imposing quota, which in sometimes, particularly when it comes to physical, this really applies to where physicality is so important, which is much more prevalent in saying being a Green Beret or a SEAL than it is in being a pilot. And when you start imposing quotas, you begin driving down standards to meet those quotas. And that's where it's destructive to our military. Our women, I want to be clear, I've fought alongside women. They're fantastic warriors. Whether it's cyber, whether it's intelligence. My fiance was an Army intelligence officer in the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. They contribute fantastically to our military, but we have to keep the best and the brightest, and that is about standards, not checking boxes and categories.
Exactly. Lowering fitness standards is a disrespect of what it takes to be, for instance, a Marine.
Tokenism.
Yeah, and it's just wrong.
Tokenism. And you don't see, when it comes to sports, right? The NFL takes the very best. And if there's a woman out there that can stand on the offensive line and compete with the best, fantastic. But there are inherent physiological differences between men and women. And so on the one hand, we want men and women sports in different categories. But on the other hand, the left demands that we ignore all of that at the same time. And you just can't have it both ways. Right.
Well, your head has to spin when you think about everything that is going on, this critical race theory infiltrating not just the military, but our schools. The children are being indoctrinated at very early ages. I tell people all the time, if you can homeschool, continue to do it, because otherwise your kids are going to be very, very confused.
Well, Joyce, I want to be clear. This book that is on the head. I'll send you the link to it. Mm-hmm. That's on the Chief of Naval Operations, the head admiral's reading list for all sailors. Basically teaches that America is inherently misogynistic, colonialistic, and racist, and therefore to be anti-American is your duty. Ugh. Meanwhile, we have a Navy that is now smaller than the Chinese Navy. They're outbuilding us in terms of ships 5-1. Our most expensive aircraft carrier doesn't work. It's now ballooned to $18 billion from $3 billion and still doesn't work. And that's what our head admiral's focused on. So believe me, when he comes to our Armed Services Committee, we're going to have a lot of questions for him.
Yeah, please. And please ask your colleague on that committee, the Representative Gallego, what on earth he is talking about. Because it's the kind of story that has legs because it starts out with, well, they had to be in the riot. And then it's like, well, we're tracking to see where their travel took them. We're checking their credit cards. I have a real problem with the level of spying that's going on for Americans who may have wanted to go to Washington on January 6th. I have friends who have been contacted by the FBI because they went up there. And you and I both know the majority of people went up there they were a heck of a lot more peaceful than the people who were in Portland or Seattle. Anyway, Colonel, I always appreciate talking to you, and I pray for you. I do. I pray for you. I pray for Brian Mast. I pray for the guys who I know are not used to functioning in a situation where nobody seems to know who the boss is. We're the boss, the people back home.
Amen. That's right. That's right. Well, thanks, Joyce. I'll take your prayer. I believe in prayer as a Christian that works.
Yes,
and we need
does.
it, and our country needs it.
Yes.
But we have to keep our Judeo-Christian values, as the basis of this country. Without it, you just have relativism and what everyone feels like doing that day. So appreciate it. Keep the prayers coming.
All right, you got it.